Sindoor, India and Pakistan today, they are closest to a hot war. A hot war means where both sides will bring all their capabilities, their own capabilities and the capabilities in the case of Pakistan that it gets from China to a point to the battle space. That's a hot war, or what we call a full-fledged war. Now we know that Operation Sindoor has not ended in a ceasefire, a formal ceasefire between India and Pakistan, but Prime Minister Modi has said that there is a pause in Operation Sindoor. And what has been created after the pause is what we call the new normal, and the new normal is extremely dangerous. That means the next step from new normal is hot war. To have normal ties with India, where the Pakistani Prime Minister has said that Pakistan is willing to talk with India bilaterally, have normal relations, but three issues need to be spoken of, and they are Kashmir, trade and water. This means is that for both sides, they will be reviewing now all that they have learnt, their observations of Operation Sindoor, and now they'll be filling up their operational gaps noticed during Operation Sindoor. That means war preparedness at an accelerated pace. Now, as far as Pakistan is concerned, to do that, they have elevated Army Chief as a 5-star rank of Field Marshal. Now, the Field Marshal rank doesn't get him any more pass than he already had as the Army Chief, but as Pakistan is concerned, the threat is well known. And as far as India is concerned, it is also known that India now faces a 3-front threat. Will not go to war with India, but if there is a war between India and Pakistan, China will accelerate its peacetime aggression on the line of actual control to make sure that the limited combat assets of the Indian Air Force, they get divided. Now the second front is Jammu and Kashmir, where the Indian Army will get divided, because as many experts say, this is a half front, this is actually more than one front. And I have been saying since 2019 that what you face against Pakistan is not Pakistan, but a one front reinforced threat, which is Pakistan and China together, without showing its hand. Now it is certain that Pakistan Air Force will get 40 aircraft from China, the J25A, and the deliveries are expected to start as early as August this year, 2025. Now this is a big deal. It is a big deal because a 5th generation aircraft will be introduced between India and Pakistan, a 5th generation aircraft which has stealth and which can operate in a contested environment. This is the key thing. So it is an air superiority aircraft, works very well in a networked operations, and here is the key thing. It will have cyber and electronic warfare integrated in its attack profile. I will explain this in a while. Although there are reports that the Pakistani HQ-9, which is equivalent of the Russian S-300 surface-to-air missile, it did well, but certainly given its elongated geography of Pakistan and the fact that the Pakistani air bases, they are within 100 to 200 kilometers from the border, and all this is covered by the S-400 which India has, then certainly Pakistan would be looking at acquiring the Chinese HQ-19 long-range surface-to-air missiles, and reports are that the Chinese will be giving them. The American THAAD system, which that the Chinese will be giving them. Now HQ-19, they are equivalent of the American THAAD system, which basically means that they'll be able to take on the IRBMs, intermediate range ballistic missiles with a range of 2000 kilometers. So these are the two key capabilities which will have an enormous effect on the battlefield between India and Pakistan. I don't want to go in further details. Now, the modern war, capabilities is what will matter. And when we talk of capabilities, we are talking of the assets in the virtual domains, not in the physical domains. In the virtual domain of cyber, in the virtual domain of electromagnetic spectrum, in the form of electronic warfare, and in the space domain, the space of the war, a modern war. Let me just briefly talk about this. Warfare is concerned, and now I don't have to emphasize upon this. I have said in my earlier videos that starting from 2019 Balakot air attacks, where the Pakistan Air Force showed a good control or a good knowledge of electronic warfare, they have come a long way. Central to the Pakistan Air Force operation, and electronic warfare has three core competencies. They are very important. One core competency is of electronic warfare, what is called electronic intelligence. What this means is the capabilities to get the signals of the enemy radars, enemy communication systems, all electronic stuff, analyze that, which are then analyzed to know what exact weapons are there, with what capabilities and parameters they are there. So it's a huge thing. It's a very interesting capability, and that is when I said earlier that J25A will have cyber and electronic warfare in its attack profile. What this means is that electronic warfare, it affects or it destroys the electronic signal, the electronic wave. As all should know that in atmosphere there are 7 waves. Collectively they are called the electromagnetic spectrum, and in these the 2 waves, one is the radio wave, which is used for military communication, microwaves usually used in satellites and radars. So the data and information which is there in the open atmosphere, in the wireless system, what we call, it travels through in the waves. So vulnerability, then there is a possibility of injecting in that vulnerability of the electronic wave a cyber weapon. Inject a cyber weapon which can then travel to the signal into the computers, which is where the cyberspace exists. Warfare creates a vulnerability, and the cyber weapons can be injected there to then travel to the computers. What this means is that not only the Pakistan Air Force is good in electronic warfare, there is plenty that the Chinese would have shared with them about cyber weapons and spoofing. We saw their jamming, what they could do in Operation Swift Retort in 2019. So these are the core competencies. So basically cyber and electronic warfare, they work together. Chinese are helping the Pakistanis with their Beidou system. Beidou is perhaps today the best system, the constellation of satellites in the world. And they have also Yagon satellites, which one of the things they do is ELINT, which is electronic intelligence, picking up what I said, the electronic signal, sending them perhaps back to a ground station where they are fully analyzed to know what the enemy is doing. It helps increase the situation awareness. What this means is that even their legacy Mirage aircraft, they can now, because of this digital ecosystem called multi-domain operation, which is backing the Mirage, their situation awareness, it increases by hundreds of kilometers. And the second is that this will help in closing the kill chain very fast for the Pakistan Air Force. And if I may add, I've spoken about the war concept, next is the training. Now, there is no secret that the
Did you know there's a smart
show of Pakistan is better than the Indian side. I mean, the Indian side is 1.5. That means 1.5, which is on the Pakistan side it is 2.5 pilot per aircraft. On the Indian side, 1.5 pilot per aircraft. They are double this side, which means all this helps in a high intensity war, and especially in a war where there is a contestation. Better off here, and not only that, there is commonality of equipment. They have been doing joint trainings with the PLA, especially the PLAF and the Pakistan Air Force, the Shaheen exercises, which got, we know, intensified after August 2019, to give 50% discount on the assets that they are selling to Pakistan. I don't believe that. I think that the Chinese will give whatever they give, the top of the line stuff, to Pakistan free of cost, because in any case they are getting a lot. They are getting two things in return. One is that without getting into a war themselves, their equipment is creating deterrence against the Western equipment. And the second thing is that this increases the arms sale of the, because they are operationally now validated, so the arms sales of the Chinese side, they increase. War is very important, but there are two requirements of an information war. I have said this earlier also, let me repeat it here. Information war, first of all, should be very close to the real war. You cannot just talk things like Karachi is captured or Islamabad is bombed. It doesn't make sense because it is so unreal. And then we saw during Operation Sindoor, people like former army officers calling Iranian leadership pigs. I mean, who does that? Iran today is the only country which stands tall in the Middle East. And Iran is a very important member of BRICS. So we heard all this. And the second requirement of an information war is that you can have disinformation, but you need to have information also. Something we saw that on the Pakistani side, they did very well after the air battle, but on the Indian side, we did not do that at all.